Hello, my name's Ben.
My name is Josh.
Welcome back to FPL Graduates. It is the Game Week 5 review. We're starting to get through these game weeks a little bit quickly. We're starting to get a few green arrows potentially. How was that game week for you, Josh?
It's probably my best one yet. Not in terms of points, but in terms of rank climb, it was unreal. Had some great differential picks for me. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been better. It could have been a lot better than it was. Again, it could have been worse. I mean, I had a pretty decent week as well. Can't really complain too much, but the transfer decisions I made did end up not helping me out at all. So we'll go straight into it. We'll go straight into my team for this week. Got a pretty reasonable 71 points this week. Not too bad at all. We'll run through this team. Melier with 4 points. We've been very patient with him, but he is going to haul any minute now. He's going to get a big one, and we're going to be sat there thinking he's got the highest sort of ceiling of any goalkeeper in the Premier League, which I do believe he still does have. The amount of saves he makes is ridiculous, and if he gets that clean sheet, it's game over. And to be honest, if Leeds could actually defend properly against Saint-Maximin, that one opportunity he had where, to be honest, he shouldn't have scored from that position and get past so many Leeds players, we're looking at potentially like a 10, 11 pointer there. In defence, Livramento came off the bench with some jammy 5 points. You love to see it, in place of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Duffy got me 5 points as well. He was one of my transfers in. Can't complain about that. Bit of gutted they didn't keep the clean sheet, but to be honest, they were lucky to get the win nevertheless. Ben White, I backed this guy start picking up the clean sheets of Arsenal because their run got a little bit easier. I think everyone just dismissed Arsenal because of their poor start to the season. And I think people are going to start getting back in Ben White because he's the main guy in that centre of defence at such a cheap price. Luke Shaw, disappointing again. It's like a similar theme for the season where he's creating chances. It's just United are just gifting goals left, right and centre. And I imagine that their defence will tighten up once they play more difficult opponents, which is kind of strange to say, but you've got to be thinking, you've got to be leaning towards a Chelsea defender now because they're just keeping clean sheets for fun against everyone. Midfield, Sissoko, 2 points, weren't expecting much from him. Rafinha, 8 points, buzzing with that. What a great start to the game week we had there with Rafinha. Probably meant to be a cross, but we take the goal nonetheless. Fernandes 2-pointer. It could have been more. Again, he hit the post in that West Ham game. I thought he was very unlucky to come away with no returns in that one. Ben Rama, again, wow. Just when you think your luck's up with Ben Rama, he goes and does it again. Another double-digit haul. That's his 3rd of the season already. Ridiculous. Salah, the most consistent player in the game, the best FPL asset in the game, in my opinion. And up front, Lukaku, again, I really thought he was unlucky not to get a return in that game. I think he could have easily got a goal and an assist or maybe even 2 goals in that game. But yeah, we finish off 71. The transfer out of Ivan Toney stung me. I should have kept him, but of course, with the transfers I made, I gained 0.2 in value. So I'm kind of thinking of it on one hand. It's bad that I lost the Toney points this week, but going forward, I'd much rather prefer Lukaku than Toney in my team. Josh, what are your thoughts on my team this week? Should I have held off on that Toney transfer?
I don't think you should have, really. Like, I know he's in hindsight, yeah, he got 12 points, but you kept him for quite a while as it was, and he wasn't really doing anything. So it was bound to happen, though. It was either between him and Mahrez. You're taking out 2 potentially big threat players. They're going to return at some stage. It's just a matter of when. And I think longer term, you with Lukaku now, he was, like you said, he was unlucky not to score or maybe getting a return against Spurs. Obviously, City next week again, it might be a similar situation. But after that, their fixtures look great. You've got a massive captaincy option there as well. So really, really good team. Some of the picks, I like Duffy is in my team. Livramento likewise. Those 2 are really good, cheap gems to allow these premium players into our teams. Ben White as well, Arsenal defence, as we mentioned a while ago. Not every team gets Chelsea and City in their first 3, so hence why they're not doing great. But yeah, the rest of your team looks great. I think you're in a good position going forward. It's just a case of, I think Fernandes, we're going to see this a lot where he's not going to be able to get these sort of returns that he's matched last season due to Ronaldo now being in that team.
Yeah, it's a tough spot with that Fernandes pick because obviously he's dropped and Ronaldo's gone up, so it makes that just that little bit more difficult to get him in.
Yeah.
I think I'll wait and see. It's a really difficult one because I think if I want to get Ronaldo in, I have to play the wild card. So I'm just basically, I'm not sure where to go from that. I'll talk a little bit more about my transfers a little bit later on. But yeah, I went from a rank of about 350k to 240k. So it's a pretty nice rank rise this week. We'll definitely take that. And it's definitely improvements. We've only had one red arrow so far, and it's crazy that we're only at 240k at the moment. But Josh, should we get into your team?
Yeah, let's do it. So similar story for me this week. I got 75, didn't take any hits, so I'm pretty pleased with that. Like you said, Melee in goal. He is close to getting this massive haul, but again, Lee's defense is letting him down. Watching Liam Cooper play against these Premier League strikers is hurting me. So whether he's going to stay in there longer term, I'm not too sure. Let's give him a couple of weeks. I don't plan on wildcarding just yet, but it is on the horizon, I think. So I am thinking about it for sure. I think he has got the highest ceiling, but Leeds just don't help him out. I was saying to you over text over the weekend, I don't know why they haven't signed another centre-back when they've got so many injury-prone centre-backs. It's crazy, but we move on. Luke Shaw, he's been really disappointing. I think he's getting into good positions, like you said, getting crosses in, not a lot of attacking returns, and United are tending to concede the scrappy goal or just conceding a goal every week. I think they've conceded in 4 out of their first 5 games, which isn't ideal. Obviously, it was unlucky, deflection off Varane, but it's still a goal and they're still conceding a lot of chances as well. Luke Ayling, he's picked up a knock. Again, he's not someone I want in my team. This double Leeds defense is not out of choice. I can assure you of that. But yeah, he will be someone who I'm looking to replace hopefully in the future. Shane Duffy getting an attack and return. Someone commented on my TikTok, why would you go Duffy and Ramsdale instead of White and Sanchez? I think Sanchez doesn't make a lot of saves. I think Ramsdale will make more saves than him long term. And also Duffy has a lot more attacking threat than Ben White. So you got to think about these sort of decisions in that way too. Another assist. He's also got a goal earlier in the season. He's a great option. And I think he's 4.3 million now. I think I got him at 4. He's still very, very cheap in my opinion. Mo Salah captain, Mr. Reliable. Love that 24-point haul. Bruno, like you mentioned, very unlucky, but I think we're going to see this with United. He's going to struggle to get some returns when the likes of Ronaldo, Sancho, Greenwood, they're all in the team too. Benrahma, 10-pointer. How he got 10 the free bonus points, I'll never know for that deflected goal, but I ain't complaining. The main man of this week is Massar, 15 points, 2 goals, 3 bonus points. Great performance against Norwich. I was disappointed last week with him, but he's turned out good this week. He's also got Newcastle and Leeds, 2 of the worst teams defensively in the league. In his next 2, I think it's just going to continue. Billy Gilmore off the bench because Trent obviously didn't play due to him being ill. 3 points. Could have been a lot worse. Could have been a little bit better, though, as you'll see. Raul Jimenez, how Wolves aren't scoring is just baffling. Like, they get so many chances. They just can't find the back of the net. I don't think Jimenez is having a lot of shots, or good shots, should I say. He seems to be assisting players who can't shoot, which is annoying. He could have probably had an assist or maybe some sort of return in that Brentford game. But I think we saw the bad side to Wolves, and a lot of people who brought in their defensive assets would have seen that too. Ronaldo with the obligatory goal. I feel like he's just going to tick over like that pretty much every week. Definitely should have had more, maybe a penalty. He should have scored that 1-on-1, but good goalkeeping from Fabianski too. And then on my bench had Simicast, 5 points. I was like, Benrahma, I hope you don't play. And then Benrahma gets a 10-point haul. So I'm happy with that. Just gutted that I didn't put him first sub instead of Gilmore. Overall, we are 8,100th in the world. My best rank on FPL probably ever. Will it continue? We'll have to wait and see. I'm having a great run though so far.
Yeah, what a run to start the season. Jimenez for me is definitely one that's going to be frustrating for a lot of his owners. He's getting shots off. He's getting a few of them off in relatively good areas, but his shot percentage on target is not great at the moment. So we got to hope that that improves. Ismail Sarr, what a pick. You could see from stats when you're looking at it, Norwich concede goals from that side of the pitch where Ismail Sarr was operating and paid out. And we could see him definitely getting a few hauls going forwards, especially in this next 2. I mean, it's looking cracking. But we'll talk about your transfers now, Josh. What are you sort of thinking right now? What are the transfers that you're going to be looking to make for next game week?
I mean, I think the obvious sign when you look at my team is the defence. We've got Luke Ayling in there. We've also got Simicast there. So 2 players that aren't maybe the greatest assets. Obviously, Simicast won't play from now on, I wouldn't imagine. I think that's the last sort of return we'll have out of him. So I've got, I think, 0.3 in the bank from my Antonio transfer last week with Jimenez coming in. So it'll be looking to maybe get, I think, Livramento's on my radar. He's 4.1, might be pushing to 4.2 tonight. He just looks good. Southampton look very good defensively. They've kept a clean sheet now against City, West Ham. They're very good attacking teams. So they look quite good. I think they're going under the radar maybe in terms of their defense. So Livramento is the main man. Elsewhere, I'm not sure if I'd be looking any further than him. I think a defensive transfer is a must, though, for me this week. I think I can get away with that midfield and attack for another week. I think they've got good fixtures. So, yeah, Livramento is on my watch list. What about yourself?
For my team, which I'll bring up again now, I'm not too sure where I want to go here. I would want to get Ronaldo in, but again, to get him in, it's probably a -8 at this point, and I don't think it's worth it. Don't think it's worth hitting the wild card yet for me either. So I'm gonna. What I want to do is kind of hold that transfer for this week again. If Rafinha's out injured, easy downgrade to someone like Ismail Sarr, someone like that, maybe even like a Damari Gray, someone of that price point. But it's just to wait and see. I probably just. If I need to make a transfer, I'll do it after the press conferences once I know that there's a player out. At this point, I know we saw lots of high scores this week and a lot of people are going to be panicking about that and making transfers out, etc. At this point, I've got to hold, wait and just be patient, especially with that wild card in pocket. I think I'm looking relatively all right at the moment. So for me, if it's Rafinha out, it's probably someone like Sarr in, and then hopefully we'll just move on from there. Already seen that Mike Dean's the referee for the United games. Maybe Bruno can get us an assist for a penalty or something like that. So, yeah, that's the kind of plan. Good captaincy options next week as well. I think it'd probably be on someone like Mo Salah. But in terms of transfers, not too much going on my side of things.
Yeah, I think if Rafinha is fit, there is no reason to make a transfer for your team. Your team looks pretty good overall. And likewise for the wild card, I don't think you necessarily need to hit it. I think you probably get to Ronaldo in 2 moves if you use the Bruno money. So you'll be pretty sweet going forward.
Yeah, I think it's the case of basically Antonio, if I want to get him out, but you, of course, want to play him against that Leeds side at the moment, the amount of injuries that you have. So it's probably, again, wait and see how Antonio does against Leeds. And yeah, because if it does so happen that I have to get Antonio out, that's easy to get him out, Fernandes out, Ronaldo in, and a pretty decent midfielder in for that price point. Now, we'll talk a little bit about wildcards because a lot of people have been asking about it. The ideal one, Josh, you kind of put your thoughts out there on TikTok about a really good wildcard team. Are there any sort of statistics that you were looking at to decide who is kind of essential to have on a wildcard?
Yeah, so just from the first, I think 5 game weeks is a decent amount of data for you to decide your decisions on. City in 5 game weeks have only conceded 5 shots in the box. That is insane defensive stats. I know everyone's barking on about Chelsea, which they are also very good defensively, but I think they're going out of the radar maybe, Man City. They're quite nailed defensively as well, with obviously Benjamin Mendy not being there, Zinchenko not really in the team. So we got Walker, Cancelo, Diaz. The other centre-back, I don't know who would play. There's lots of injuries there at the minute with Laporte, Stones, and then Ake seems to be filling the void. So for me, I'd look at Diaz or Cancelo. I think they're going massively under the radar, Man City. A lot of people are scared of Pep Roulette, but I think in defence, at this stage of the season, you might be a little bit safer than... I'm not saying it's totally safe, but a little bit safer than later in the season. What's your thoughts on anyone taking your fancy at the minute?
To be honest, I think Chelsea... potentially triple up is the one to go for right now. Obviously, there's rotation. I like Rudiger, I like Christensen as picks. Lukaku, obviously. In terms of other picks, I think you're probably looking to shift from 2 or 3 United assets just to the one for now. I'd honestly maybe not even take the wild card now. I think if you're looking to get those price rises and kind of catch them on the turn where you've got the Chelsea boys who might rise, etc., I think now's a good time to do it. But, would I do it now? Would I not? It really does depend on your team, doesn't it?
It definitely does. I feel like if you've got some boys in there that you're like, I'm not sure, like maybe 4 or 5 of them, then maybe do it. If you haven't got like Salah and Lukaku or Ronaldo, you might need to do it, something like that. But right now, I don't think I will wildcard. I think it is very tempting when you see the likes of Chelsea keeping clean sheets every week, City keeping clean sheets every week. And to make those defensive transfers, a wildcard makes it a lot easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've also got to remember that there's an international break coming up in the not too distant future. And in terms of what we know about international breaks from the past is players tend to pick up injuries. There's lots of quarantining rules as well. So if you've brought in players on transfers and not kind of thought about where they potentially could be playing in the international break, it might be worth looking at that before you make your wild card. And if you are in the process of making a wild card, you've got to bear that in mind as well, because it could be that you pick a couple of players who might be on a red listed country that they're going to, and their team might not let them go, or some sort of rules that come out from the FA, from FIFA, about players having to quarantine and not allowed to play. So you just got to bear that in mind. And I think you probably want to wait for that international break in order to make the wild card a bit more feasible for you, because otherwise you could wild card now and end up with like 10 players come game week. When is it? Game week 7 or 8 when the international break's done?
It's 7 to 8 is the international break. Yeah, so I totally agree with that. We saw it last international break where we had a lot of disruption due to the traveling and stuff. It hopefully shouldn't be too bad, because I think the restrictions are lifting in terms of like testing and stuff around October. So hopefully it won't be as bad, but you can never promise it. Obviously, it's just a bad time in the world, so we can't really predict what's going to happen. I'm just going to bring this up here. It's drafthound.com. We're not sponsored or anything, but I just like using their data because it's just really useful. Right now, that you can see the percentage chance, they do it based on odds, so like the bookies odds and stuff like that, of like clean sheets. You can also see goal scorers later in the week as well, which is really handy for like captaincy picks. So as you can see, obviously, I did mention Man City of being like really good, but maybe one reason why I wouldn't use my wildcard just yet, they do have Chelsea and Liverpool in their next two. Going to be difficult to keep a clean sheet against them. As you can see, 22 and 25% chance. That's not very likely. Usually it's around 50% for a clean sheet. This week, it doesn't look likely that many teams are going to keep a clean sheet. Liverpool, United, Everton. Is there any defences, Ben, that you'd look to target, obviously, with this fixture swing up and coming, other than maybe the big boys like Chelsea?
To be honest, it's very unpredictable, but I like the look of that West Ham defence now, especially with Kurt Zouma in the back. I think he definitely solidifies them a lot. We've obviously seen Leeds haven't defensively performed very well, but other than the big boys, I'm not too sure whether it's worth taking a risk on some of the other teams. I'd say this week, by looking at these statistics, it's probably best to go for a 3 at the back formation and kind of limit how many clean sheets you can lose this week and kind of go for the attacks, because the bookies are saying that there's going to be goals. So hopefully we see goals this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting. I think one defense that's been massively overperforming my expectations for sure is Brentford. Like, they're up there with Man City in terms of the amount of shots they're conceding and stuff like that. It's really interesting. Obviously, if you want to take a look deeper into these stats, go Fantasy Football Hub, go check out them. They've got all the stats on there. But yeah, they're just so good. Obviously, they play so well against Wolves to keep them out. I know Wolves are one of those teams that give you about 100 chances they might score 10, but I think they're just doing very well. We've seen it against Arsenal and the other teams they've played. But again, long term, can they keep it? Is it sustainable? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see as well. And yeah, there's a few defences that you'd probably look to go towards in terms of, the fixtures turning. All eyes are on Chelsea right now, and they've got so many great fixtures. And I saw on official FPL, a few of the pundits were saying that they've never seen a run like this before. This is literally a run playing against 7 of the worst 8 teams defensively in the league. So surely you've got to triple up on them by game week sort of 8, because a fixture run like that is going to come around for Chelsea, and then you can hop straight back on those United assets from game week 14, and you're looking in a good spot there.
Yeah, it's mental how they just switch straight away. And United's run is about 10 plus game weeks long in terms of just green on the FDR. It's absolutely insane. What we'll do, we'll take a few questions now. I know a load of people are asking us different little questions. Obviously, we have 2 press conferences this week. So in terms of injury news, we're going to get double the chance to hear about the likes of Rafinha, Ayling, Trent. I know Trent Klopp came out today and said Trent should be ready for the weekend, but not for the EFL Cup. So a little bit of info there. But yeah, we'll go through some questions now. Get them in the comments, as many as you can.
Yeah, it was frustrating that Trent couldn't play, wasn't it? Because I thought he was going to get... He was the sort of player that would haul in a game like that, especially we saw Van Dijk hauling in that game. He got a 12-pointer there, which was fantastic to see. And it could have easily been Trent, couldn't it? Let's have a look at some of the questions that we've got. A lot of people talking about this man, Jota. Is it the final goodbye for Jota owners this week against Brentford? And who would we replace him with?
Yeah, I find it hard to give people advice on this because, like, the guy had a 0.99 XG chance and he somehow spooned it. But yeah, I think Ferran Torres, if you want to get rid, I wouldn't necessarily say to get rid, but if you wanted to get rid, I think Ferran Torres, although he's going to get rotated a bit, he's likewise a good option. I wouldn't go near Greenwood as much because I think, like Bruno Fernandes, he's going to get eaten up a bit in terms of his returns by Ronaldo, especially against these harder teams. Like, I think they've got Everton and Aston Villa in their next two. Like, they're not going to be as easy as the teams they've been facing so far. So I'd probably go down further and go to like Rafinha if he's fit, maybe Sarr. Sarr's next two. If you plan on wildcard in Gameweek 7, Sarr's next two, Newcastle and Leeds, arguably two of the best fixtures you can have on paper.
Yeah, it's difficult because around that price point, I wouldn't say there's anyone that is fantastic value. You got the Mason Greenwood, he's not exactly nailed. Yes, he's been playing a lot recently, but that can very quickly change. We saw with Jadon Sancho as a high value asset, and he can just get dropped like that. You got, Torres, who's obviously a rotation risk as well. So it might even be worth downgrading, like Josh said. Jimenez, keep or sell? Big question. In my opinion, I probably would say sell. Josh would probably say keep because he's just brought him in, right?
Yeah, I was actually James FPL Talk. I watched his little mid-game week thought sort of thing about Jimenez, and he mentioned about like a lot of people obviously brought in Jimenez for Antonio because he's suspended. And if you have the money just to go back to Antonio, because that Leeds fixture is very tasty, I actually tend to agree with him a little bit. If I didn't have the defensive issues and I could just waste a transfer like that, I would do that. Antonio against Leeds, he's going to score probably a brace. It wouldn't surprise me. His ownership's really high. I just feel, for me personally, I brought him in obviously last week. If you had him longer, you probably wouldn't feel like this, but he literally is on the cusp of scoring or assisting, and it's just it's a dangerous position to be in because he obviously could not return, and it might not be the case, but he is this close, and I expect it to come. He's also got good fixtures coming up with Leeds and Newcastle as well, I think.
Do you regret selling Antonio yet, or is it still like a positive move in your opinion?
Nah, I can't regret it because I wouldn't have been able to. Well, saying that, Simicast would have come on if I had Antonio. So hindsight, yes, like it is a bit of a regret, but I wouldn't have known Simicast is starting. So I made the right decision with the knowledge that I had. So I can't be mad.
Right. So maybe this is a question more for me then, considering I own both Antonio and Ben Rama for this week. The double up is definitely the play this week. We definitely have to bring both of them in. With Leeds having virtually no centre halves, everyone came off injured. I think Ayling, he came off injured at one point. It's not looking good for them.
They were playing Calvin
100%.
Phillips at centre back, weren't they? It was bloody
100%.
Crazy.
I couldn't recommend more. If you own both of them, you have to play both of them, regardless of opponents, in my opinion, because great form, great players. Really simple one for me. Yeah, definitely. Another question about another Leeds defensive asset. For this week, would you play Meslier or Sanchez? Or if he's transferring one in, who would you transfer in?
Well, Brighton have Crystal Palace, who against, I think, lesser opposition can cause problems. I think even against Liverpool, they did tend to cause problems for the early part of that game, I think I saw. So it is tough. I think I'd go Meslier, though. I think his saves, like he's going to get a lot of saves against West Ham, especially if they don't have a defence. I don't expect West Ham to score like 4 or 5. It's not going to get that bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd go Meslier. He's going to get like a 4-pointer again, I think.
I think what I would say in that situation is if you own both of them, play Sanchez this week. If you're looking to transfer one in, I'd say Meslier for the long term because keeper transfers have to be one that you're ready to keep them in for a good majority of the season. And I mean, if you're already thinking about transferring someone out now, then you've got to say, did I make the right keeper choice at the start of the season? I'd like to say just stick with it, because whoever you've got in goal at the end of the season, the difference between the top point scorer for keepers and like fifth was like 30 points. It's not too much in it compared to 1 to 5 in midfielders. It was like over 100 points difference, like something ridiculous like that. Yeah. So just got to bear that in mind. Here's another one from Matthew. Chelsea double up or one City defender and one Chelsea defender. Would you go all in on that Chelsea defence right now, or is it worth bringing in a City lad as well?
If it's right now, I'd go double Chelsea, because City face Liverpool and Chelsea in the next two. If you're wildcard in game week 7, I'd split it up, and because they're both equally as good defences. But yeah, City's next two aren't really that appealing. So yeah, that's my thoughts. What about you?
I'd probably double up on the Chelsea lads no matter what. I'm not gonna lie, they just look so phenomenally good at the moment, and I hate saying it because we've got an unbearable mate that's a Chelsea fan, Lewis, and he's unforgivable. But I'll tell you what, that Chelsea defence looks unbelievable at the moment. I don't think many teams are going to break them down, and I don't even know if I anticipate City scoring in that game, because that Chelsea have been that good so far.
I mean, I feel like Spurs had some chances at the start of the game, especially when Lo Celso put Son through. So there maybe is like a chance, but you've got to take those chances against the Chelsea defence. Like if they scored in the first 20 minutes, I think Spurs would have had the advantage and would have sat back. But because you don't take your chances, you're not going to be able to beat these Chelsea team.
So Glenn's asking, is it worth bringing in Mane alongside Salah and Lukaku as premium cover? So Josh, what we're thinking here is that Mane's covering Ronaldo or Bruno. Is that worth doing? I'm kind of leaning towards, if you've got Salah, that's your Liverpool coverage there in attack, and maybe Trent as well.
Yeah, I think if you've got Salah and Trent, that's enough. I wouldn't bring in Salah, Trent and Mane. You're relying a lot on Liverpool. Although they have been good this season, they can potentially slip up. We have seen that. I think United, although they do have poor fixtures, I don't think it's as bad as everyone's thinking. Like, they've got Everton, Villa. We've seen these teams concede a good few goals. Leicester as well. They're not as good as what they were last season. So I don't think it's as bad as everyone's saying. City and Chelsea and Liverpool are in there at some stage. Don't get me wrong. But I think you can keep 2 United players without it being a massive problem.
Yeah, here's one. Keep Marcel or get rid. I'm going to have to say keep, because I don't think you should be making those defensive transfers if you can avoid them. Definitely an avoidable transfer to make Marcel. You could keep him in, and I think he'll tick over with clean sheets. I think Wolves are just very poor defensively on that day. They've provided some good underlying stats over the previous 4 game weeks. So in my opinion, Marcel is a keep. I don't know what you think, Josh.
I do think he's a keep, but I do think we've seen with this Wolves team, like the teams they've been facing are quite timid. Like we've seen Spurs, like Nuno Spurs, and a great attacking team. United didn't play well going forward when they faced them. So I think in terms of the data we've had, it probably was the right decision. But I think you should look at the teams they're facing too. And that's why I haven't brought in a Wolves defender personally.
Right, we'll take one more question. I'll go down and see what everyone's saying. We will say... do you want to pick one, Josh, for the final question? Because I'm struggling here.
I like this one. What's your thoughts on? Is it worth taking Shaw for Rudiger? Because obviously Shaw's been underperforming. Chelsea defense. You seem very pro Chelsea defense this live stream,
mate. So... It's ridiculous. You never would have thought it, would you? I'd be tempted to wait this one. I would be tempted just for 1 game week though, and then I'd make the move from Shaw to Rudiger, because I think Villa haven't looked too great defensively. I know they performed exceptionally well in their last game, but I think I'd back Shaw to do some damage against Aston Villa. Whether they can keep a clean sheet is the big question, but I think Shaw against Aston Villa is definitely a more appealing fixture to me than Rudiger to Man City at home. So for this week, hold it and then make the move next week, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think Shaw, he's on like literally both corners as well. So like the returns are coming. It's similar to the Melier one where he's just underperformed at the start of the season. I'd keep again, like Ben mentioned, because that City game, if Chelsea do keep a clean sheet, you can just sit back and be like, fair play. Like I need to get on this defense, but City look good going forward. I know they didn't manage to score against Southampton, but with the likes of Foden, De Bruyne coming back, I think we'll see a few more goals coming from that City team.
Yeah, so that rounds it up for the Game Week 5 preview. Review. If we could replay it, I'm sure we'd make some different decisions there with our team. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys